All right, hey, welcome, beautiful people of the internet, back to another episode of the Blue and Green Zone. Today, it is our Week 1 recap on the Seattle Seahawks. If you're new here, this is a little kind of podcast talk show about everything Seattle Seahawks related. So, coming into the season, looked pretty solid with some of the offseason changes we made. Mike McDonald is our new head coach. We got rid of a couple guys on defense, including Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks, Darrell Taylor, among others like Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. But we kept a lot of really good players like Uchenna Nwosu, Boye Mafe. Excited to see some of those guys on that defense. Adding Darrell Taylor as well from the draft. Or not Darrell Taylor, Byron Murphy from the draft, my bad. And, of course, you got Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, uh, uh, Julian Love, that's his name. Julian Love, the safety, also former Pro Bowler from last year. Just really solid defense all around, and just a solid team that I'm excited to see for the rest of the season. And yeah, so switching over here. So coming into this season, Seahawks finished their first game 20-26 against the Denver Broncos, getting their first win. It was kind of a struggle at the start of the game, mainly the two safeties that the Seahawks allowed, and then of course on their first drive they suffered an interception within their own 20. But thankfully the defense hunkered down, and even though they kind of scored 10 points on themselves, um, excuse me, they kind of scored 10 points on themselves by that, you know, red zone interception to the Broncos. And then later on, they would fumble a punt return that would allow the Broncos to get another field goal. The defense actually held up really well and only allowed those to be the only 10 points that they kind of like gave up, two safeties and two field goals. And then besides that, the Broncos, they got another field goal kind of on their own drive. And then they got a touchdown late in the fourth quarter to bring it 20-26. The Seahawks took care of business, all things considered. I thought they played really well. Besides the first kind of two quarters, like kind of late in the second quarter, they started to kind of play a little bit better, but the offensive line wasn't really helping out Geno Smith as much as I would have wanted at the beginning of the game. It was a bit sloppy. We couldn't really get much run blocks for some of our running backs like Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. But all around, the team definitely got better in the second half. Taking a look here at the rest of the division as well, the Niners got their win against the Jets with a pretty decisive 32-19 victory. The Cardinals lost to the Bills 28-34 in a very close game. Same with the Rams going to overtime against the Lions 20-26 as well. 20-26 seems to be the score for the NFC West there for two of those teams. But the Seattle Seahawks currently sitting in second place. But that all can change as this is only the first week of the NFL. Taking a look at some of the stats, though, from the Broncos game here. As you can see, over on the Broncos side, Bo Nix throwing for 26 out of 42 passes being completed, only having 138 yards in the air and two interceptions with no touchdowns. He did have a rushing touchdown and 35 rushing yards out of 5 attempts. And their next leading rusher would be McLaughlin, I think. Very, very weird names they got to pronounce, but going for 10 for 27 on his carries. And then Javonte Williams not really having the biggest impacts that I was expecting, only having 23 rushing yards out of 8 carries. And then receiving, they did all right. Josh Reynolds, 5 for 45. You got guys with 8 for 39, 4 for 38. They spread the ball around decently well, but they just weren't really that effective and only had the one touchdown run from Bo Nix. And besides that, their points came from Seattle turning the ball over and those being converted into field goals rather than touchdowns. And then, of course, the two safeties that we gave up because we had a holding call in the end zone, and then we just couldn't run it out of the end zone with Zach Charbonnet, and we almost had another one, but thank for forward progress. Um, could have had 3 safeties in one game. So taking a look over at the Seattle stats, Geno Smith 18 for 25, 171 in the air, had a touchdown and an interception. Besides the one pick, it was at the beginning of the game, the second play of the game. Uh, Geno played decently well. Obviously, the running game really did come in handy. Kenneth Walker going 20 for 103 and a touchdown. Geno Smith also having 30 yards to himself and a touchdown on the 34-yard running play that he had. And then Zach Charbonnet not doing too bad himself, 8 for 12. He did actually go through the air as well, 2 for 29 receiving yards and a touchdown for Zach Charbonnet. All around, the offense was really great. Tyler Lockett, 77 yards out of 6 catches. DK Metcalf having 29 yards. Same with Zach Charbonnet, both of them getting a couple of good carries there. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba having 19 yards there. And then Noah Fant having 11 yards out of 2 catches as well. So all around a solid performance considering the start we were having, and not too shabby there of a play. And then as you can see, total yards for Seattle 304 to Denver's 231. Passing yards, we had 158. Denver had 132. Rushing yards, it seems like Denver was doing better than us at the rush at first, but then in the second half, it really turned around to 146 and 99 there for Seattle and Denver. And then yards per play, Seattle had 5.1. Meanwhile, Denver only had 3.3. First downs, Seattle had 19. They went 4 for 12 on third downs. They didn't have to go for it on fourth down at all. And then total plays during the game, even though Denver did have more plays in total and also time of possession, that Denver also had more. It just ended up being Seattle's game to control and scoring faster and not having to stay out onto the field as much. Sacks allowed, both teams allowed 2. This did come at the beginning of the game, mostly like in the early stages of this football game. Seattle was really giving it up and getting Geno Smith a lot of pressure, and we kind of turned it up later on. Denver punting the ball 8 times, Seattle only 5. Penalties weren't too bad. We were one of the most penalized teams last season. Hopefully we can continue to not be too shabby when it comes to that. Fumbles lost. We lost one during a punt return, which was not fun for us, obviously. So, which led to another field goal for Denver. So hopefully we can really control the ball a little bit more. Denver had 2 interceptions. Seattle had 1. Obviously, the one came at the second play of the game. That's pretty good, honestly, when the sack and the interception, like these stats here, when it comes to like some of our worst plays came really early on in the game, and then we just kind of not allowed that anymore. Hopefully, when it comes to the future, we don't allow that at all. Speaking of the future, here's the rest of the division's next games and also the games they most recently played. Obviously, you can see here San Fran beating the Jets, Cardinals losing to the Bills, and then the Rams losing to the Lions. The next games for these teams, San Francisco has a bit of an easy game, maybe against the Vikings. We'll see how that pans out for them. And then we have a divisional rival matchup between the Rams and the Cardinals. Very interested to see how both of those teams can do. Very interested to see how this division does as well. It's a very, very challenging division. All of these teams are going to be solid, I feel, but it's going to be fun to see. And then obviously Seattle's next game is going to be up against the New England Patriots, who beat Cincinnati in a very shocking game. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can continue to play, and if they're gonna kind of keep up that luck that they had against the Bengals. I'm hoping for an improvement from the Seahawks. I think there will be. Just tighten up those mistakes that we were making earlier in the first quarter. Also, just the first half in general of the Denver game, and then the defense. I loved the defense during this game, only allowing the last 5 minutes of the game, allowing just 1 touchdown. Meanwhile, every time we turned the ball over within our own territory, the defense would just hold them to just field goals. So hopefully we can continue that. hopefully the offense can have a bit more production this week against the Patriots, who on paper looks like one of the worst teams in the league. So we'll see how that goes. And I just wanted to thank you all for watching this, whoever is. I really appreciate it. I know I haven't done the Blue and Green Zone in a long time, but I want to try to get back into it for the season, do some videos every now and again, every week. Keep you guys updated on all things Seahawks, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day.